going to call the meeting to order, and we are going to pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so Karen, can you do the roll call?
Commissioner Andrew?
Here.
Commissioner Humberston?
Here.
Commissioner Kalani?
Here.
Commissioner McNeil?
Here.
Commissioner Soa? Absent.
He may yet come. So. Okay. Do I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Looks like we don't. Okay. Okay, then we're going to move on to the agenda. Item number 1 is. Hello, Commissioner Soa. Item number 1 is the wholesale water agreement, intergovernmental agreement with Oregon City for Glen Oak Master Meter, and we're having a presentation by Engineer Bob George.
Madam Chairman, I move that the board approve the wholesale water agreement with Oregon City in Resolution 02-2017, establishing wholesale water rates charged to Oregon City effective October 13th, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we'll have the presentation and then the vote.
Okay, this is the selling of water to Oregon City at the Glen Oak Pump Station. That we will be buying water to Oregon City for the single lot that the Evergreen LLC will be developing the lot across the street from the high school. It represents about under 10% of our water capacity in the Beaver Creek pressure zone. And attachment is the IGA itself with the location map. It also has the calculation for the water rate, and then also the FCS group paperwork that they did when they calculated the rate. Oregon City has reviewed it. We do have a signed copy from Oregon City. We received that early this week. We just have a blank one though, but it's being prepared. Karen has it for signatures if it's approved tonight. And then also attached is resolution 02-2017. And the resolution, the purpose of the resolution is that allows us to annually change the rates based on changes of cost, power, and such. And that way we do not have to reopen the contract to make that modification. So the resolution is pretty common for us to do. And that's why that is included in the package tonight. So if you have any questions, we have talked about this quite a bit over the last few years, and we at our last board meeting, well, on the August 22nd board meeting, we gave a presentation on all the details of it. So I'm going to ask, is there any questions concerning this agreement?
Any questions?
I have none.
Okay, and I guess we can take a vote. All in favor of action item wholesale water agreement, intergovernmental agreement with Oregon City for Glen Oak Master Meter, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Commissioner Soa, did you want to vote on this?
Right.
You want to vote on this, aye or nay, for this action item?
I said, yeah.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Okay. It's been passed unanimously, so we'll go on to action item number 2, which is Oregon City CRW Joint Engineering Memorandum of Understanding. Anyone want to make a motion?
Here. Madam Chairman, I move the board approve and authorize the general manager's signature of the memorandum of understanding authorizing payment to Oregon City for the joint engineering study.
Second.
Okay, so before the vote, did you want to?
Just real quick, MOU to be signed, authorizing us to make payment for the engineering study that we're going to be sharing the cost with Oregon City. In an amount not to exceed $127,000. there was a couple of questions, work session concerning the qualified base selection that Oregon City uses for the engineering firm, and they do the proper process, and to save time and money, staff time, we went ahead and used Murray Smith and Associates that are on Oregon City's list. Just for your information, MSA, Murray Smith, have done a lot of work for us over the years. They've worked for Oregon City. They're very familiar with our distribution systems, which will help them in their study and understanding. They did most of the work on the HOP agreement and the work up there. Well, there's a multitude of projects they've worked on, so quite familiar with our systems. So we both staff felt that they were quite qualified to do this study for us.
Any questions?
I just had one. In the italics area, it indicates 2 years. Is that a firm commitment that it'll be done in 2 years or less?
This was the italicized that came out of this statement of our agreement. And what was it, 6 months ago, we agreed to an extension of that. And yes, it is intended to have this done probably within the next 9 months.
Said 9 months?
9 months, within the next 9 months.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I guess this is a leap of faith for me, so I just hope to get what we hope to get. So I don't know what this is gonna buy us. I'll be quite frank with you, I don't know what this is gonna buy us. And so I have talked to our general manager, and he has assured me that he would keep us abreast of how it's going, and that he will do the best that he can, working with our partner in this, to make sure that we get our money's worth. And so I will support it.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a vote. All those in favor of the action item, Oregon City CRW Joint Engineering Memorandum of Understanding, please say aye.
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 Okay, this approved unanimously. We are going to go on to action item number 3, approval of waterworks supply contract with H.D. Fowler. And do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I move that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with H.D. Fowler for waterworks supplies for an amount not to exceed $65,000.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Do we have any presentation on this, or?
So I'll introduce the item. This is a supplier that we buy a lot of waterworks components from, one of a number of different suppliers that we use. We last year had a contract with them for $65,000. I actually brought the contract before the board to get your approval. That contract has since expired, and so it's time to renew, and we would like to renew at that same level. And given the fact that it is over the general manager's authorization level, that's why you're seeing it before you tonight.
Or any questions?
I have none.
Okay, all in favor of action item number 3, approval of waterworks supply contract with H.D. Fowler, please say aye.
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 I think it's been passed unanimously. And we are going to take a short break because we need to have some papers signed. If anybody wants any water or coffee, it will only be a couple of minutes.
Just for the record, I have to leave because I have another commitment that I need to get to, so I'm going to sign the documents as required. Just want to make sure the record shows.
I didn't get
I'm
one.
having a
You didn't look at it. I mean, that's an executive.
Yeah. There is. Yeah.
And she's done.
You went to
Start the meeting.
Back to order again.
PD sets minimum hours.
So we're up to the consent agenda. I believe that we need just a motion passed for that. Do you want to do a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Okay, A second? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So now we're up to informational reports, and we're going to start with the Butterfield project update. from Adam. Principal engineer.
Okay, here we go. Good evening. I'm aware that the general manager is able to give the board an update of sorts in the last week or so, so I'll keep this brief. Did want to share a few things with you, some pictures and the status report on the project. So I did provide the handouts, it should have been on your desk to follow along. I'll just jump right into the presentation and discuss where we are today, how construction has progressed over the last month and a half, some of the current challenges we're facing out there in the job, some additional work we've identified, opportunity work under this project as it relates to future backfill projects, and then some of the financial considerations. Just a quick listing of dates there, and I won't go down through all of them. This gives you kind of an eye for the timeline since we advertised for bids in March, and then on through the summer months where we were doing some preparatory work for the project, had a conditional use process with the county for half the project, and moved into construction at the very end, tail end of August, and where we are today. Which, if you look at the map, basically it's straight out of the plan set actually, but the blue shaded area really is kind of what I wanted to emphasize there. It's just showing the length of line that we completed to date as of yesterday. So about a third of the project remains, a third of the water lines. Up in the upper left corner is the reservoir site where there's some additional work up there connecting the lines to the tanks. So that's just kind of a quick overview for you. The next page shows just an aerial view of the project with north up this time. And what I wanted to emphasize here is just showing you the blue shaded area up in the northern quadrant of the map, just to emphasize that area that the conditional use permit was required for from the county. Again, because of the timber district zoning of that area, we were required to submit a conditional use permit to the county. And as I noted on the schedule back there, that was approved. Basically, the contractor was able to complete construction along the southern area of the project, so from Beckman up Potter Road, outside of that conditional use area, in good timing for him then. Once we got that approval, it was almost a seamless transition into the Butterfield section, so that was fortunate. Just a couple of pictures, kind of starting from south and moving north. Started at Beckman Road on the south where our intertie is going to be, and then ran north on the two easements that we acquired in the side yards of these customers. As you can see, it's a fairly substantial trench for a 16-inch water line, and in this case we have about 200 feet of HDPE casing that we utilize, plastic casing basically, to protect the water line. And then that's kind of a quick shot of what it looks like after. They did some initial restoration there, still have some seeding to do and whatnot, but contractors taking good care of the private property. This is just a shot of the waterline tap at Redland Road, where we're also tying in. Just the contractor tapping the wet tap on the main line there. And then running across Redland Road and heading north up Potter. A lot of straight lines, a lot of excavation, a lot of pipe in the ground. I get excited about it, but you made the engineering comment anyway, so.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry.
The restoration on Potter is really good. So
It has been good.
I hope it holds through this heavy rain, but.
Yeah, they've basically got compacted gravel there right now. The county's been pretty lenient on requiring a temporary asphalt, but if it starts, spalling out, we'll get some asphalt down there. But the nice thing about Potter is it's very low travel.
Yeah, you know what the ADT is?
I don't know if the count is on that one.
The county has a map book that has it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's very, very light.
Yeah, 250 maybe.
As I wrote in the write-up, just some of the challenges that we have had on the project. A lot of these, again, were kind of knowns in one sense, but unknowns in others. We knew that working on Butterfield Lane was going to be tight. It's a very narrow, about 10 to 12 feet wide, basically a 1.5 mile driveway, private road, that serves 3 homes and access up and down the steep hill of Butterfield and some curves. Putting a water line in that road has not been without its challenges. Another item is utilizing the trench excavation material as fill material up at the tank site, which was a big cost savings for us to do that rather than having to import material for the fill. But again, it becomes a staging and access issue because again, it's going up the narrow Butterfield.
So that's an engineered fill? For the
Yeah,
reservoir?
native fill, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And keep in mind that that's not fill that we're going to fill a reservoir on.
Okay.
It's only there to bring the corner of the site up to grade so we can run our water line at the proper elevation. And then some soft soils we encountered that were unforeseen on the lower section of Butterfield Lane. And I'll get into these more here in a minute. And then, of course, the wet weather, which we're in full swing as of
It's
today.
gonna get worse.
Adam,
Yes. Question?
How much is that gonna cost for the soft soil?
Pardon? The cost?
Yeah.
I'll jump into that in the next couple slides, if that's okay. I'll break it down for you.
Before we go on, did the pipe mix up on Redland Road cost us any money?
No.
This old supplier cost?
No, the delays that we encountered there during the crossing of Redland was that goes, it's something the contractor will absorb in his execution of the project, yeah. Okay. So this is a shot of Butterfield Lane going up the hill, and you can kind of see, the pavement breaking up pretty significantly. Up the hill more, there's 3 to 4 inches of pavement that's in pretty good shape, and this lower section that I'm talking about in a minute here, very thin, about 1.5 inches of soil or of asphalt set directly on soil. So no base rock. You start running equipment on that, it starts getting heat up pretty fast. And then that's just a picture of the dumping and rolling of material for the fill at the reservoir site. These are just some shots of, again, the lower section of Butterfield. And if you can kind of see, this one shows you the road, just mostly from impact of construction traffic where it's kind of blowing out. And again, the thin asphalt and the soft soil is problematic out there. In this photo, they put steel plates down in the lower section to help mitigate impact, make it more passable for construction and for the residents. And then this is just a shot, again, the wet weather challenge. They're actually spreading plastic up there and have it spread to cover the fill area. So when the weather clears, we can get back on it and not have a soaking wet mess. Also, as I wrote in the item, 2 items that we've identified. One of them we brought up maybe an update or so ago with the board, where there was an opportunity to, under the Butterfield project, to put in some additional water line. And what that's related to is another backbone project, the Bradley Road Pump Station, which currently we're in some pretty favorable discussions with the property owner out there adjacent to Butterfield Lane. And we envision finding property in that area that would allow us to put a pump station in there under that future project. So, while we've got the road open, while we're digging, and we have a good contractor, good prices, we thought it was opportune time to put in a piece of that 12-inch main that would serve that pump station. And then, of course, we tie into it later. So there's one cost that will be an adder to the Butterfield contract cost. But again, reasons are opportunity, for future costs. If we didn't do it now, just a pretty rough estimate, just the cost to go in, excavate material, tear up the road again, for about 500, 600 feet of line would probably be about $20,000 just wrapped up into that alone. So pipe cost is relatively competitive. What we're seeing, what the contractor is asking for on that compared to other bids.
So that's not really a cost increase. It's pre-work for
Correct.
another phase down the road. And the savings is not having to tear up the road
Right.
again.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
That's good.
That is real good.
The other item, it's, as I explained on that lower section of Butterfield, because of the soft soil and the asphalt breaking up the way it is, we're envisioning having to do a little more road restoration than we first thought we would. I'd also like to consider it as an opportunity, a cost or expense, because we have the Redland Reservoir project coming up in another year and a half. And we know that that road is going to face, again, significant construction traffic impact. Definitely there's immediate needs to make it passable for the residents, as well as that future need where we want to, if we're going to do something to it, again, doing it now versus later, beefing up the lower section of road a bit, and probably doing a little more extensive asphalt overlay as we head up the hill, will allow for that road to stand the test of time, not only for the residents, but again, for our future construction of the reservoir. So those costs that you see there, the $146,000 would be full restoration costs for about 1,000 feet of the lower section of road, and then additional overlay or additional asphalt on the upper section. The estimated savings, actually, you could deduct from that cost. The $36,000 would be a deduct from the other bid item that we had, because we did have a road restoration item in the contract. It just wasn't to that extent. So I have a couple other slides that goes into a little more detail on those two items. The addition of the 12-inch is just a pictorial representation of it. Can't quite see it, but there's actually two lines there running parallel up Butterfield, and then where we're currently sited with our contemporary construction yard is where approximately that future pump station would go. There's a shot of the lower section of Butterfield. And again, this is that kind of the troublesome section right up to about the base of the steep hill, kind of a flat, soppy, not great soil stretch. So had a couple other pictures of just what that road is looking like as we're working on it. You can kind of see here where things are just, it doesn't even look like a road. Although I will say,
You saw cut that?
they ground it. Yeah, they have a grinder. And yeah, the grind looks great. Then they get into digging it with the backhoe and things break apart.
Or use rototill it.
I will say the restoration work, I wish I had a picture to pass this now, but it does look pretty good. There's still asphalt on either side for vehicles to travel, and gravel's compacted nice.
So they can straddle the ditch line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So financially, just if we take kind of a holistic look at it, the original backbone budget for the Butterfield project was about $2.9 million. When we did our final estimates, just after design was complete, prior to bidding, we were at about 2.6. And then the low bid was, of course, Tapani at just under 1.8 million. And then with these additional items of about 180,000, give or take, because there will be some incidental costs also that will be associated with these other items. things like, added additional fittings, additional excavation for the pipe, that sort of thing. The total projected amount right now in the contract is about 1.97 million, which is about a 10% increase overall, within the general manager's authority of approval in our rules, under 15%, and the general manager has authority to approve that for a public improvement project. So just wanted to update you and give you kind of a picture of where the project sits today. In conclusion, the substantial completion date is January, with a final completion of February 2017. So I'm envisioning, we've definitely got some rain right now, but I'm envisioning decent enough weather. We'll get some clearing. We'll allow them to complete the project on schedule. Again, with just a statement on the cost being at 10% right now. And of course, we'll continue to keep the board informed if other changes, come along that require your attention. So,
Have you run into much rock?
we really have.
I was surprised.
A few boulders on Potter Road. There's a couple of little, chilly spots there where we've run into a few, but not bad.
Not Krakow-sized boulders.
Yeah, and they've got some big equipment out there that's handling stuff pretty well.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So we are up to the manager's report.
Right. Manager's report is contained in agenda item 5 in your packet. And so just a few things that I'd like to highlight this evening. First off, I know it's early, but kind of one of those save the date moments is for the Special Districts Association of Oregon's annual meeting. This year it's going to be in Portland, and this February. So if you're interested in attending, please let Karen know. This is one of those things where SDAO does encourage elected officials to attend in addition to staff, and actually I believe they actually have a program where if this is your first time attendee, they'll actually pay the registration. So there's some added incentive as it relates there.
What's the date of that?
February 10th through the 12th. So it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So when they say first attendees, they mean first attendees to these conference, that does not include the training.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it the kind of conference where a person could come and go, since it's in Portland, just go to things they're interested in?
Yep, so as we get closer, we'll get you the schedule and we'll get you more details. I'm committing them to some of this, the pre-registration, but I probably should double check to make sure they're still doing it again this year. So, next item is the Regional Water Providers Consortium. Just wanted to briefly report on the recent board meeting that they had earlier this month. They did adopt their regional water supply plan updates, which is a document like this. This is actually built upon the earlier regional water supply plan, and really that was adopted in 2004, and really just reflects some of the changes that have taken place in the last 12 years. As far as budgets, the Regional Water Providers Consortium Board provided some feedback to the staff as with respect to the budget and how to deal with some of the staff changes and the fact that Metro's indicated their withdrawal from participating as a dues-paying member to the consortium. There's a lot of time spent at the board meeting talking about Metro and wanting to encourage them to re-engage with the consortium, and so there's a concerted effort to not only contact them by letter from the board and encourage their participation, but then they're also encouraging the different consortium members to contact their Metro representatives to ask questions and encourage them to participate. In the end, there were a couple different budget options that were discussed. It appears that the board's kind of direction after kind of looking at the impacts on the programs was the direction was to go back and figure out what it would look like with roughly about a 3.5% dues increase, 3 to 3.5% dues increase. For us, that's not a huge hit. It is probably $900-ish at that level. The next item is the Clackamas River Water Providers. A couple different things. We were involved, actually, a staging area for the distribution of 1,100 of these little 3-gallon emergency water bottles. As you can imagine, very popular item for those folks that stop by to pick them up after pre-registering. In addition, obviously, to sending out or providing information, or the bottles, we were able to provide some information and also kind of test out our ability to run a distribution event, because you never know when you may need emergency water distribution, and so we kind of took it that way, and then actually used the ICS process to document things, and so that was a good exercise that we learned some things. It's also a good reminder, especially given the weather events that we're planning for, that folks should always be prepared. Last month was Emergency Preparedness Month, and who knows, this month people may get to use it, so.
Sunday,
Yep.
Sunday.
It's a little crazy.
Question, for those people who are in our water district that couldn't make it to that event, can they pick one of those up?
So everybody who's in our district that pre-registered to receive one of these, they've been notified on how to pick that up.
Okay.
So unfortunately, everything's spoken for. It was
Okay.
a pretty popular item. We actually, everybody pre-registered within the first week, but we had a
Okay.
number of our customers that did participate, so. Also had an opportunity as part of the Clackamas River Water Providers is to attend their annual watershed tour this year. The focus was on the lower watershed, and so a lot of interesting things that were pointed out to me, everything from some wetland restoration projects that are going to help us in stormwater runoff upstream of our intake, to other issues associated with emergency spill response and how Clackamas Fire District, Clackamas 1 Fire District has the ability to kind of assess the different chemicals, and then just their coordination with water providers also on how you protect the intake. Something by some chance was to approach the river. So very informative, very valuable tour. Next year, I think the focus is on upper watershed, so that's something that I would encourage everybody to attend. Also had an opportunity to attend the PG Key Customer Breakfast. Obviously, one of the things that we do buy a lot of is power from PGE, and so it was interesting because the things that they highlighted could have been at a CRW meeting, as far as the need to maintain buried infrastructure and talking about resiliency and building in that resiliency into their systems and managing costs while dealing with state and federal regulations. So I thought it was also informative that 2 of the customer examples that they brought in to talk about working relationships were actually 2 other water treatment plants. So the Joint Water Commission plant and also the Willamette River Water Treatment Plant were 2 examples. Also, just as a reminder, we have our Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission board meeting on Monday, November 14th. So I wanted to make sure folks were aware of that and have that on their schedule. Next item in your packet is the variable message system trailers. This is an item that we did bring before the board during the work session. This is something that we have received UASI grant funding to purchase. I do apologize, there is an error in that. We're actually buying 4 of those trailers, 2 of them for CRW, 2 of them for Sunrise. And then in your packet are kind of the attachments of the actual versions that are being considered or looked at for purchase. Or I should say will be purchased.
Do these have the cell connection? No, you can't remote program? That's handy. You turn them on, turn them off remotely.
Is that a yes or a no?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I should have left on.
No, they don't have the remote connection. We just didn't feel it was needed
Yeah.
for the way we're going to be deploying them, so.
So the next item, not a pleasant item I want to highlight, but an item that I need to highlight nonetheless because it has been in the news a lot, but it deals with the public employees retirement system rates. CRW did get our rates for the next biennium. And so, as you will see, the rates are anticipated to go up, not as much as some, so that's I guess good, but still fairly significant. This is something we'll discuss for as part of our 2017-2019 biennial budget process. Also noted the future work sessions. So we have a work session scheduled on Monday, October 24th. Right now I have 2 agenda items, the supplemental budget overview, and so this is the meeting that we will be inviting our budget committee members to also participate in and listen on the supplemental budget discussion. And then we'll also go through our emergency management and continuity of operations plan update.
In that workshop, so we're going to be inviting the budget committee will be here at 6, and then they will leave, and then we'll have part 2. Is that what it's going to be? Okay.
So I'll know more probably know more by the end of this week, but I'll probably have to schedule an exec session for that meeting as well. So.
Okay.
And then we do have a November 3rd work session scheduled. The only agenda item is to review the general manager's goals. I think when we first talked about this, we had more items scheduled for the October work session. So if we wanted to combine the November and October, I want to throw that as an idea, or if we wanted to just keep November, it's the board's prerogative. So given the fact that we only had 1 item for the November, and we're down to 2 for the October, I didn't know if that was of interest or not.
Does anybody have any feelings about
Yeah, I
that?
got an item I'd like to give in the thing, but I was gonna talk to you guys first.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see, some additional items not included in the report. I just want to note we will be talking a little bit about the legal counsel selection process, excuse me, at the end of your meeting. That's under the board communications. Also wanted to let you know we'd also received the grant funding that we talked about for the radio communication study. So we are beginning to negotiate a contract with Stantec Consulting Services. And so we'll be providing more information and updates on that at our October 24th work session. Also wanted to note, you have 1 handout, but there's also some additional articles. Lead is still in the news, and so now the focus appears to be kind of looking at the City of Portland's corrosion control program and how they've been handling the lead issue. And so I just want to make you aware of those articles. And then last item I just want to touch on is you do have the chart on the river levels through the end of September. I think we're getting good river flows now, so we'll start back in May and providing you that information on a monthly basis. So with that concludes my general manager's report.
Okay. So we have another opportunity for any public comment. Is there anyone in the public who wants to say anything? Okay, then we are going to go on to the commissioner's business. Item A is the Legal Services Selection Committee. So we are putting together a committee to hire new legal staff since the one we have now is going to be retiring at the end of the year. I've been asked to be on the committee. We can't have more than 2 commissioners because it becomes a quorum. But if anybody else would like to be on the committee with me, you can. It is not a necessity, but if there's anybody that wants to. If you don't know now, you can contact me later. Yes.
Well, so
yeah.
So we'll be prepared. The statement of qualification or request for qualifications that'll go out. That'll all be advertised tomorrow, and we'll distribute it. One of the things the board asks is that we contact SDAO to kind of identify some attorneys that we should be putting in there, and so we did that as well. And then I don't want to assume, but I would like to be part of that process.
Yes, I
this
had
is somebody
assumed that.
that I would be working closely with. So the minimum, I think, you and myself And then we will be using Dean. Obviously, he's got the history and background, and he's gonna be more familiar with some of those, so that would make sense using him as well.
Larry,
Fine.
you want to be part of the selection for the attorney?
So I want to clarify that the selection process that goes through reviewing all the statement of qualifications, doing all the scoring and ranking, and then we'll bring that back to the board. So we're not, we'll be having a discussion with the whole board before we move forward with trying to negotiate an agreement. So.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to be on the committee with me, please let me know.
Well, I'll do it. Larry's always had some energy towards council, and I just want to make sure he had an opportunity before we jumped in, and same thing with you, if you have.
I'm fine with it if
No, and I
you
know
want to do
that,
it.
Yeah,
I know
I
Ken's
do
not
it.
interested.
Okay, so you and I can do it.
Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Great.
So technically, this is a committee of the board, so if you don't mind, let's have a motion
Okay.
for yourself, Commissioner McNeil, and myself.
Hugh, would you like to make the motions?
Oh, I'd like to propose a motion that President and board member Dave and Angie are selected to serve on the committee to produce the plan for hiring a replacement attorney.
Can I ask to be added to that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was just a standard.
Just being-
And adding the general manager.
Yeah. Okay,
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great.
So one of the things that I've been talking to our general manager about is how do we replace lost revenue to Oregon City and the cities in general? My largest concern is the south area of the district where as Oregon City grows, we're gonna keep losing. It was the same thing with fire. They always took all the highest valuation, left us to serve all the stuff that was expensive. And I've been doing some research. I called Metro, and I have talked to a number of different folks, and as long as it isn't inside the urban growth boundary, there's nothing that I can find that precludes us from changing our boundary to, usually by request, but we need to have a master plan. We need to figure out where economically we can serve customers without spending too much on infrastructure. And, we're not losing, like at the golf course, what do you lose? 2 services? Is that what the golf course, just one? Yeah. So you lose 1 service, okay, no big deal, but these onesie-twosies add up over time, and if we could pick up 3 or 4 or 5 people here and there and not have to spend a lot on infrastructure, I think we need to figure out how to do that, because we got a bond that's gonna get paid off over the next 40 years, and if you don't watch out, you're not gonna have anybody to pay it, so it gets really kind of tough. I read an article, I had talked to in Prineville, and they didn't collect enough money to pay what they needed to pay on bond for the school district. So you know what happens? They raced for everybody else. And so it's an interesting way. I've never thought about it. That has never happened to me in a property tax situation before, to have a special assessment for the school district to come up with enough money to cover that annual cost of that bond. And so this bonding thing is a little bit new to me. There are some nuances of that I didn't know, and I'm still learning more about the water stuff. But I think because we were the ones that instigated the bond, I think we should make sure we leave the district on a good footing going forward to ensure that we can pay off this bond. And so, there needs to be a process, and what I was hoping is in that November meeting, maybe we can start a conversation about, what we think is reasonable and that kind of stuff, so that no major effort like we did with the backbone project, but we need to start thinking about, are there areas, because there are some small subdivisions, you know, in the Beaver Creek area that, you know, may make sense. We've talked in the past when Lee was here about Country Village, you know, I don't know. It's interesting, but see, Country Village is inside the urban growth boundary.
But
Yeah, it is.
they're our customer.
Exactly. And
Right.
so, they're our wholesale customer, right?
Yes.
Yes, right. And so.
Very
can-
nice one.
Yes, exactly. What I don't know is, can you convert that to just a regular customer? Because they're inside the urban growth boundary.
Well, they would have to.
You want me to speak?
Yeah, no, please.
There's quite a history with Country Village Estates. At one time, Claremont tried to convince the owners to build with ductile iron pipe instead of plastic and plastic. So most of their system is pressured plastic pipe. We've had conversations on the peripheral of possibly taking it over so they become our customers. And of course, then we own the issues. Being a wholesale customer, very good. Now, 10 or 15 years ago, they fought Oregon City for annexation and won. So they are still outside the city limits, inside the UGB. So as part of the engineering study, Country Village Estate is one of those areas we're gonna study who's gonna do the long-term service of that
Right.
area. So I'm pushing, of course, that we should continue because we have a 12 and 16-inch main through there.
Right.
Makes sense for us to, so that would be one area, part of that study. Steiner Road, there's homes out that way.
Yes, there is.
In fact, what I'm gonna do is bring Todd up to speed. About 2 years ago, maybe 3, I went through a series of what-ifs on potential sites where we might be able to provide extra service.
Mhm.
So I'll pull that back out and we can start talking about.
So
if
there's a
any
number of
additional-
little opportunities like that
Yes.
around that aren't gonna cost a lot of money to serve, but we could bring in 3 or 4 here, 4 or 5 here. And I think if we can do that, it was interesting, I got a call from a guy out in Beaver Creek, and he says, what does it cost for water? And I said, well, it depends on the time of the year, of course, but how much you use. He says, well, is it $50 a month? And I said, well, yeah, I use $50 a month. You know, I didn't know what to tell him, you know, and he goes, that's cheap, because he's having to punch a new well.
Yeah.
We get
There
quite
are
a
a
few.
lot of those out there.
He's looking at a $25,000 bill for a well and new pump and new tank and that whole thing, and he was trying to figure out a way to not have to spend that kind of money, because he's 45 years old and doesn't think he's gonna be there that long, so.
We get quite a few inquiries
Yeah.
out and throughout the countryside.
Mhm.
Part of the issue is a lot of those areas do not have mains.
Exactly.
So to extend a main 1,000 feet or 500 feet to a house out toward the edges is not economically feasible for these people for one service. And it's hard to get a group of 3 or 4 or 5 people together to come up with dollars, because they may have one well failure, but everybody else is doing fine. So we go through the cycle of inquiries, many times on the same piece of property.
Mhm.
Bad well, unfortunately, there's no water main there. Doesn't mean that we don't look, and we're always
Well, I told
looking
him
for
to call you.
opportunities.
I told him to call you.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
Thank you.
Have them call us.
I said, get all of our engineer, get hold of Bob George down at the office.
Yes.
I don't know whether they call it or not, but I was surprised. I mean, he's $50 a month, man, I'm in, you know, like, sign me up.
There's a system development charge,
Yeah.
and some other
Yeah.
charges involved.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's
well,
not-
but even so, you know, with SDC and all that stuff, even if you had to buy some pipe, you know. Because you know, if you own a well, you're in the waterworks business, and so, you know, and when there's no electricity, you have no water, and so.
So let us kind of discuss with the management staff as far as how we can kind of approach that, and at least start maybe introducing that subject at the November work session, if you're okay with that.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to bring up at this meeting? In that case, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.